Hey everyone, welcome back to The Evil Within. This is an Akumu, no upgrade, no locker, no flash bolt, no freeze bolt playthrough on the PS4. We're now on chapter 14, which is the second to last chapter. This chapter has a little bit of everything in it. There's every enemy type. It's pretty long, so there's a lot of different fights. There's a boss. You see a lot of traps. There's some new stuff in here too. I'm also going to edit out a good bit of this level because it's so long and there's parts where you're just kind of walking. I'm just going to edit those out because, again, we're here to see the combat, not me walking around the levels. There's an invisible enemy here, which is the first enemy. You can lure him into these little tripwires here, which is good on a no upgrade run, and then you can burn him with a match, but I didn't get to him in time, so now I have to use the shotgun to knock him down. And again, usually when there's invisible enemies, there's puddles or blood or something nearby to help track them. And if you have your full arsenal, if you have harpoon bolts, flash bolts, there's a lot of other means to track him, but I'll show everyone how to do that in the next playthrough. And this guy is pinned to the wall with 2 harpoon bolts, so you can grab those. 2 free bolts, can't complain about that. There's an enemy up these stairs and to the right in the bathroom, and he's surrounded by explosive bolts, so he's kind of risky to fight. If you go in there, I think you can pick some of the bolts up, but I didn't risk it because he has a gun, and those bolts will obviously kill me instantly, so I didn't even bother going in there. This trap, again, is kind of oriented weird. It's not the standard vertical dynamite, so watch out for that when you disarm it. The game also goes full troll right there and puts a bear trap right in front of that door, and I accidentally stepped in it and died, even though I had no problem with the fight right before there, but the bear trap killed me. And just to warn everyone, this chapter and the next chapter, I play pretty sloppy. I don't do all the strategies I really want to do. I wanted to execute certain things certain ways to show you what I like to do, but it doesn't happen at some parts, and that's okay. There's sniper rounds in this little train. Use it to take care of these 2 enemies with the guns. Obviously, any enemy with an assault rifle, you can't be out in the open when they see you because they have insane accuracy. And this doppelganger, he's trying to come up here. I don't know if he saw me or not, so I'm waiting to see if he's going to come around the corner, pick him off with a harpoon, crumple into a match throw, but he's not coming up here. If you get spotted here, invisible enemies are going to come out of the water, which is what happens here, and I'm going to run by them. In my next playthrough, I'm going to kill everything. But in this, since I don't have as much to work with, I'm going to skip this fight. I'm going to take care of him. I put the shock bolt down in case other invisible enemies were nearby, but I think it was a waste because no other enemy had come out of the water at that point. And here I'm just going to run through here. There's going to be enemies kind of like tucked away in this back part of the train. See that fat enemy? He's hiding. Throw match down. I'm going to use this because this fat enemy, he's pretty relentless. He can catch up to you. And see, I trapped myself right there. So had I not shot that, he would have caught up to me. That enemy's in the water, and you move really slow, so I couldn't just run by him. I had to knock him over with the shotgun. Again, you can try and disarm those, but I don't know how viable it really is because they're so close to each other. I hate to say it, but at this point in the game, I think it's starting to drag a little bit. This chapter is really well put together, and it's got a lot of variety in it, but at the same time, this game has already shown you so many things. I think like this and the next chapter were kind of unnecessary, especially because the next chapter is basically just one fight. It's a lot of just walking around. I think the last chapter was a swing and a miss, in my opinion. This chapter is solid, but at the same time, it comes at a point in the game where you've seen so much of the best of what the game has to offer that it doesn't really stick out to me. But you go through here, and now we're going to start fighting alter egos again. And the ones here are kind of like the ones in Chapter 8, and not like the ones in Chapter 7, where they're going to have that arm tentacle thing pop out of them. And that thing you can actually shoot with the handgun to get rid of it, and then it'll go back to its normal state, like how it is now. But I don't really shoot at it because it's just really hard to hit. And the other thing too is that while that thing is out, it has a lot of armor. Like if you shoot it with a harpoon bolt, it's not gonna stagger at all or anything. But right now, just taking advantage of those stomps that instantly kill them. Because obviously, why would I use any ammo if I can just stomp them? And here, I could have just ran by this enemy. He's so slow. He's not. There's enough room for me to just get around him. I didn't need to shoot him, but I guess for future reference, I know that an explosive bolt and a harpoon bolt kills them. Even though I still think that's too much to use on just one alter ego. I think it's weird how few chapters have these enemies in them. They're only in chapters 7, 8, and then this one. So in 15 chapters, they're only in 3. I'd say that's really weird considering how few enemy types are in this game. And then probably the second most common enemy is only in 3 chapters. It just goes to show just how often you fight the Haunted, which in most cases I'd say that's really poor enemy variety, and that's like a huge thing I would want to see fixed. But at the same time, the Haunted just have so many things about them mechanically, their behaviors, their attacks, the variety just in their weapons and stuff like that. I don't really think it's a big deal. So here you have to go through the save room. I'm just going to edit this out because, I mean, no one wants to see this. So right back at it. Alter egos are going to pop out of both sides here. You have to crawl into this little crawl space. So I shock them because I was going to go for a stomp, but while I was going for the stomp, the other one was going to hit me. So I just figured I'd stun both of them and just go by them. And here you have to like wade through this water, but there's really no threats here. There's an enemy or two, but as long as you don't aggro them, they're not a threat to you. But this is a good chance to get some supplies. There's some trap parts and things in here. But since not much is going on right here, I was just going to kind of elaborate on what I was just talking about. So I've been playing, this is random, but I've been playing Doom Eternal, which is awesome, by the way, for anyone who hasn't played it. And that game has like, I don't know the exact number. It feels like probably 30 enemy types or something insane like that. And then this game only has like 6 or 7, something a lot lower. And while normally I would think, well, obviously more enemy types, more variety is better, at the same time it's like so many enemies kind of are interchangeable, don't have a lot to them. That's the thing with a game like Doom, mixing and matching the enemy types is kind of what brings out kind of the interest in the fight. But in a game like this, one enemy has so much to it that I think it makes up for it. I mean, the Haunted can have axes or Molotovs, dynamite, they can have bolts, they can have guns, they can wear masks, or not wear masks. The masks can either be porcelain or made out of metal. There's the female ones who act different than the males. There's the fatties who do all these weird things like block your handgun shots, have quick melees. They attack on the ground, which I really don't know of any action games where the enemies attack you while they're knocked down, and there's variances to it, like the attack speeds and stuff. If anyone knows of any games like that, let me know, because that's something I'm interested in seeing in other games too. So my point is that quality over quantity, essentially. Yeah, some games have a million enemy types. Doesn't mean any of them are really that great. Not to say something like Doom Eternal doesn't have some really great enemies, because it does, but I'm just saying in general. And I remember this complaint came up a lot when Resident Evil 4 came out. Like, all you fight is Ganados. Yeah, but it's the same kind of deal. The Ganados can have a lot of different weapons. They do a lot of different things. They have kind of different AI depending on where they're at in relation to you. Stuff like that. So, yeah, you fight them overwhelmingly in that game, just like the Haunted in this game, but it doesn't even matter when every fight can vary so much because of how deep they are. Plus, I like that this game keeps the threat level of every single enemy so high. So what happens too in a lot of games is if it's a game where you're used to fighting a high number of enemies, when it's just comes down to 1 or 2 or 3 enemies, you just know it's going to be easy, because if you're used to fighting 10 enemies at a time, what's 2 or 3 enemies for you? But in a game like this, since every enemy is so deadly, then every fight is consistently engaging. You know, you're never thinking, oh, well, this only has one or two enemies, so it's not going to be hard. They can still kill you really easily. It's kind of the same thing that one of the reasons people like Ninja Gaiden so much is that when you're playing on the hardest difficulty, every enemy, even if they're by themselves, can just absolutely end you. And yeah, you're used to fighting in slightly higher numbers in that game, but still, one enemy can just completely kill you. So, again, I like the focus on individual enemies rather than just driving the enemy counts up. It's a really random rant, but I just wanted to talk about that since there wasn't much to say in those past few minutes. So this is a fun section. There's 2 traumas, and then there's going to be a handful of alter egos. I believe there's 3 or 4. So you have to get to this other side of this room, and then mess with this little electric box, and you come back and turn this valve. So basically at this part, I always utilize stuns. So if you're going to use explosive bolts in a hallway that's this cramped, because you activate this and then the walls are going to close in, when you use explosions in something this cramped, obviously you're just asking to kill yourself. Guns like the sniper rifle, like I talked about, you have to reload after every shot. The Magnum I definitely don't think is worth using here because we have boss fights coming up. So here it's all stuns. I always use... Actually, what I normally do is the freeze bolt because alter egos are weak to the freeze bolt. You can just use the freeze bolt on them, freeze them, hit them with anything, handgun shot, melee, doesn't matter, and then shatter them. Usually I'll wait for 2 or 3 to come around that corner and freeze them, then I'll walk right up to them and just hit them with a melee and shatter all of them. But I'm going to use a shock bolt, and then again, these enemies are kind of slow, so I'm just going to dance around them, weave in here, and then I'm going to exit this area. The traumas don't tend to come over here. I don't know if they're incapable of passing through that like halfway point, but they never seem to when I do that part, so I just didn't even bother with them. But again, next run, I'm going to kill all those enemies in the most fashionable way possible. This part, you just shoot that thing that grabs you. I've never failed that. I don't know what happens if you don't shoot it, but I'm assuming since this game is so eager to kill you at all times, I'm assuming it does kill you if you don't do anything. So the boss coming up. This boss seems really hard, just like the boss of Chapter 10, and this boss definitely has more health. I believe he has, it's either 400 or 500 more health than the boss in Chapter 10. I could be wrong, but it makes sense because at this point you have the Magnum. You don't have the Magnum in Chapter 10. Plus, on a normal run, theoretically you'd have a lot more upgrades at this point. So they give you some ammo here before it starts. Like I talked about on a no upgrade run, grenades are going to be a great damage source. Grenades, sniper, explosive bolts, so I'm definitely going to use grenades on him. Grenades are like a great way to punish a stun. So if an enemy's stunned, like let's say you use an explosive bolt, a little easier to hit the enemy with because obviously you can aim it right at them and stick it to them. Hit an enemy with the explosive bolt, they stagger after the explosive bolt. That gives you a window of opportunity to throw grenades at them. And again, you want to do the crouch throw because it's a little shorter distance, so it's a little more accurate at mid-range, and he throws them quicker. So if you can get a stagger off of a boss, you can get some quick grenade throws in for a lot of damage. Here's this little puzzle that I couldn't remember how to do. I was just randomly pressing buttons. I think I was distracted by something, so I wasn't really looking at the screen, but here you get to watch me fail for a second. This boss, I don't know if it has that like stun damage resistance thing going on. I don't know if you shock him, if he takes less damage or not. I don't know if this is one of those bosses, but it's not a bad idea to have shock bolts ready for this fight, because again, he moves very fast, and if he just runs into you, it kills you. So if you see him kind of like slithering towards you, a shock bolt can just stop him. Again, he's going to resume that animation when he comes out of it, unless you do something to stop it, like maybe an explosive bolt. But if you just hit him with, let's say, Magnum or sniper rifle, he's just going to keep going. So you see right there, the fight starts with him charging me. I'm going to do an explosive bolt, and then I'm going to go right into grenades. See, he has recovery after he does that little slither, so one grenade, he got a little bit of hit stun, and I'm just going to go around this pole in case he decides to attack me. I'm going to alternate every time. I use all 3 grenades. Now he's really stunned. When he flails around, he's staggered. So I'm going to bust out the Magnum, get a couple shots in. I think as long as you end this chapter with at least a few Magnum shots, you'll be okay. So I stunned him because at this point I had done so much damage, I wanted to just kind of nuke him as fast as possible, but that still wasn't enough, unfortunately. So he's going to do this little thing where he likes to hide in the ceiling, and he's going to like poke his head out and then spawn these little bugs. So when you can see him like drooling or whatever he's doing that's coming out of the ceiling. You can hit him with the sniper rifle or a harpoon bolt. If your aim is really good, you can hit him with one of those. But I like to hit him with the sniper rifle first. It does more damage and it's a more guaranteed hit. And all these things will drop ammo, so you don't have to worry about running out of handgun ammo here, because that's what you're going to use to shoot these. But you don't have to worry about running out of ammo because they're all going to drop some. So I'm going to come back over here and recollect this. Again, one of the perks of explosive bolts, for all the danger it poses to you, is that you can pick them back up when you miss. So I'm going to stick it to him because I think that's all I had, yeah. And then he's going to fall. You do enough damage, he falls out. And he likes to pull a, what's her name? Laughing Octopus from Metal Gear Solid 4. And he's going to like try and hide. He's going to like get camo. But it didn't work because I already knew where he was. So right there, he was charging me, so I stunned him, or I used the shock bolt on him. And now he was staggered a little bit, so I figured I'd just wail on him with the shotgun, and that was enough. I knew he was getting close to dead. I mean, I did 3 grenades, 3 magnum shots, sniper, and several harpoon bolts. I knew he was close, so I just said I'd finish him off with the shotgun. Those enemies drop shotgun shells as well. So the chance of you running out of shotgun shells here, unless you use it exclusively, is very low. So if you want to use the shotgun when he's staggered, that's a good option. Collect his green gel. He gives 20,000, which is really good. And then at the end of this run, I'm going to spend a bunch of gel, and it's going to be great. So this chapter ends on some walking and stuff, and I'm going to edit some of it out. So next chapter is chapter 15. It's the last chapter in the game. That chapter, for some reason, starts with a good 10 to 12 minutes of you just walking through empty environments. So I'm going to cut most of that out. I'm basically just going to start that chapter right at the first fight. And right here, this chapter ends on one of these fights. I believe we saw this in chapter 4 or 5 the first time. Again, the goal of this fight is to just knock these guys down, and then you can pull the plug out from the back of their head. Trying to just lure them all into one shotgun blast doesn't really work. A shock bolt is the best thing to use here, but since I'm so close to the end of the game, the big last fight, and then the final boss, I decided I'd save those little bit of trap parts for when I really need them and just kind of blow everything on that last chapter. So I just decided I'd use shotgun ammo anyway. I was full, so I figured there's no harm in me using some. But anyway, next is chapter 15. So that'll be nice to finally get that last video out here and you guys can see how the game ends. There's a cutscene here, and then that wraps up chapter 14. So that's going to be the video. I hope you guys liked it. I'll see you next time.